Now, just a couple of things. We now apparently have His Excellency, the Minister of Water from Iraq, is now with us. In one moment, I'm going to invite him to make a contribution. He indicated last night that he would like to address question 5, which was about trade. He's going to speak in Arabic, I understand, and somebody will translate. Just before handing over to His Excellency, I'm hoping there'll be 5 or 6 minutes at the end of this, and if so, I'm going to ask each of the panelists for a one-sentence takeaway. So I'm giving you some warning about that. But for the moment, over to His Excellency, the Minister of Water from Iraq.
Very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like first to introduce my thanks and on behalf of Iraq.
We can't hear. The voice is low.
معالي الوزير الصوت واطي، ممكن حضرتك تزود الصوت شوية؟ اتفضل معاليك اتكلم، اتفضل.
الصوت واضح الآن؟
أحسن كده، اتفضل يا فندم.
الصوت واضح؟
أحسن.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, Excellencies. I would like first to, on behalf of Iraq's government, I would like to introduce my thanks to Arab Republic of Egypt, and I would like to extend that to Ministry of Water Resource and Irrigation Excellency Mr. Mohammed Abdul Ati to give us a chance in order to participate in this very special event. Actually, Iraq very interested to participate in that special event. This is the third time we participate in that event, and we believe our situation, Iraq and Egypt, we have the same situation in terms of water resource, because two countries located downstream, Nile River in Egypt, and Tigris and Euphrates in terms of Iraq. So when we talk about the integrated water resource management, we believe as a downstream country, we need to focus based on this term. Of course, as a downstream, we need to focus on, we need to consider two-level, local level, entire management, I mean inside Iraq, and the second level, which be the outside level related to the Iberian countries. As an entire level, we need to consider all water requirement, actually to the many sectors, and we need to consider as a one package, as an integrated. So when we let's say adapt, when we base an annual plans which are based on a specific strategy that has been built on a comprehensive principle according to the let's say social, economic, environmental, and etc., as well as the security and political level, taking in consideration all consumption sector, drinking and water, sanitation, agriculture, industry, and environment, and etc. And also we have another important sector south of Iraq is marshland. We need to rehabilitation or recover this marshland, and I think all of you understand the situation for the marshland during the past regime. They become drought, and this is very actually important issue for Iraq to recover. So Iraq is playing very hard to recover this marshland as well as fishing, wealth, and other sectors. Actually, we need to control. I mean, and on local level, we need to control about the water distribution in order to implement the equity for distribution water for all users in Iraq. And we cannot, implement that issue as a Ministry of Water Resources alone. We need to cooperation with the other ministries. They are contact direct with the water issue. So like, Ministry of Agriculture is the main one of the main consume of, one of the main claim for water, and also another sectors, industrial and municipalities. The water who take contact with the water, direct contact with the water. So when we talk about the integrated water resource management on entire level, we need to increase awareness to the people. We need to share all the stakeholders, like farmers and others. We need to build a capacity for that people, and give him a rule to participate in water management through built a water user association, and that association is contact with the central government or with the local government in some governance in Iraq. And we have in Iraq many of water users association, and this association includes some farmers, some users who take a benefit from using water, and we put a responsibility for that people to manage the entire land. It is look like a small integrated water resource management for entire farmer. Of course, we are focusing on, let's say, increase the water efficiency, and we try to keep it. And we believe that the upstream country, in case of Iraq, let's say Turkey or Iran, they don't care about our requirement. Unfortunately, that is our problem. And they are always asking downstream to change their water plan, based on their development. And of course, that is an acceptable issue. We need to have a full cooperation between riparian country. They should consider our requirement as well as we consider their requirement. So that is we can reach for integrated water resource management and take a benefit to all of the people. We have an historical right for water, and actually maybe Iraq, before any development in their two countries in terms of Tigris and Euphrates, they are facing, before Iraq, facing from flooding. So Iraq is the first country built a dam, and on Turkey and Iran there is no any development at that time. So we need to explain that to our people living south of Iraq, the middle of Iraq. They are cultivate rice. We have a great challenge now to explain, to increase awareness to that farmers, to that people, to that poor people. Actually, we always ask them to change the crop pattern and increase their awareness about the climate change, and increase in efficiency of water. So it is a great challenge for Iraq. On the international level, we need actually to implement the integrated water resource management by, let's say, build a good cooperation, a good relationship. We need an international agreement to ensure that water allocation and water right to use the water. So until now, we don't have an international agreement between Iberian country, between Iraq and Turkey, and Iran, and Iraq and Iran. And when I mention the situation between Iraq and and Egypt is a similar situation because of more than 90% from water resource for Egypt is from outside, and also the same issue, the same thing for Iraq in terms of Tigris and Euphrates. So international agreement or any protocol or any agreement, let's keep Iraqis right and also keep the upstream country right to, develop their projects. And they need to consider also develop our projects as a downstream. So for that issue, we need all the countries support, let's say Iraq and Egypt in that issue, because it is unacceptable issue to ask downstream change their plan because they are like to develop their projects. They should change their plan in order to keep our development, develop our project downstream. So I will stop at this point and thank you again to give me a chance to participate in this special event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I spent a lot of time in the Nile Basin. It's very interesting to learn about a very similar situation with a downstream riparian with ambitious upstream riparians. So thank you for that. It's a useful comparison. There's a couple more questions in from the participants. One is asking about what is the relationship, if there is one, between local efficiency gains and global efficiency gains. I would like to expand that question a little and dig into the subsidiary questions we've already prepared for this. There's a lot of talk about a trade-based approach to food and water security, but I wonder whether there are huge costs with protected agricultural markets that might get in the way. So I would like to combine those two questions. Is there a relationship between local and global water use efficiency? And are trade-based agricultural markets a threat to global water use efficiency? Dr. Henk, if you're still with us, would you like to take that one?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. To the context, is it local or globally? When we look at efficiency, I think the approach to water efficiency demands a type of a reset. Because on one end, you can narrow it down to, is there a balance between demand and supply? And from a water security point of view. And then efficiency is allocating water accordingly. I think if we look at the way we have to treat our natural resources across the board, and the interdependencies water actually has with food security, energy supply, security overall, economic development, but also our vulnerability in the context of climate change, being the longer periods of droughts, rain events, and pollution, as well as health costs, as well as health impacts. Look at the COVID-19 pandemic, inequalities in our society, and so forth. So if you look across that, then water efficiency, only looking from a demand perspective, is not enough. Second, so that means, again, increasing the scope in the context of efficiency. Second, there is a need for a more circular approach. So water, when it becomes waste, again, is a resource. So water is not, from a natural source perspective, has to be seen from a security and efficiency point of view. There's also a circular approach that's needed. Then back to the baseline, if we look at how our water systems are now run, think about non-revenue waters being over 50% in a lot of places around the world. We treat water as if it is abundant, while it actually is a very scarce resource. So why do we need water? Why do we need to use water efficiently? I think this matter of why and ensuring that there is a value-based approach to water is going to be critical and important. And again, I reiterate the value in water principles, protect our natural resources, value water not single focused, but across all needs, interests. So you could say across SDGs, do it in a holistic but also inclusive way. So build capacity, build an enabling environment, transparent governance and government systems, and focus on innovation and investments. Then on the inside and building capacity and driving water use efficiency, there are many tools, many technical measures, data-driven. We set up a water portal with FAO. Pasquale knows everything about that too, which helps build capacity. We helped set up a water peace and security initiative that is not about interfering in conflict situations, but helping to build capacity among the different stakeholders that have a place around the table, and that means that water efficiency has to be taken seriously by all partners, and they can all contribute to using water more effectively and efficiently. And then the insight is critical important. I think we talked about footprint. Yeah, I'll stop. We talked about the water footprint approach, knowing what your water footprint is. So again, data and data and fact-driven approach to water use efficiency is critical important. So again, increase the scope, increase the time, build partnerships, make sure that water efficiency is not a single focused approach by user and demand and supply, while at the same time demand and supply can help drive water use efficiency in a more circular approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Henk. The same participant is also worried about the relationship between high efficiency irrigation to like drip irrigation and salinity. Now, we know that drip irrigation reduces root zone salinity, but it definitely does not reduce field salinity. Dr. Pasquale, I know this is a subject close to your heart. Can you answer that in 2 minutes?
Okay, I will try. Definitely, the localized irrigation generate build-up of salinity along its fringe, or if you use drip irrigation, whatever is the system, there is a salinity build-up. But we know also that we manage that salinity through drainage, through leaching and consequent drainage. For instance, in the case of Egypt, the drainage system that for now takes the water from the furrow irrigation or from the flooded irrigation and be reutilized. In reality, that will serve also when the system will be, for instance, modernized and going to a more efficient system, a more efficient method of irrigation that can serve for leaching out the salt, provided there is, of course, an application of water to the surface that is commensurate to what is the requirement of that leaching demand. So definitely there is a solution. It's not that we are intending the modernization or intending the increasing in efficiency only from the supply side, but also what are the implications and the consequence of that increasing in efficiency. Changing methods, changing system, more localized, more efficient means also build up of salinity, especially in dry area. There is also to be accompanied by the leaching requirement and the drainage associated with it. So in Egypt, we have that solution. In several other countries, we have that solution. So it needs to be worked out in parallel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pasquale. So let's move on now to our formal question number 8. I've already referred to the Budapest Water Summit of 2016. At the same summit, Olcay Unver, currently Vice Chair of UN Water, suggested that integrated water resources management has become a cathedral when it should have been a marketplace, or perhaps more relevant to the MENA, a mosque when it should have been a souk. In other words, IWRM has become an end in itself rather than a means to an end. This is reflected in an increasing body of learned literature which suggests that IWRM is only concerned with the allocation of water between competing uses, and it's very technocratic in nature and resides in the domain of water managers, sometimes occluding broader key issues of policy and political economy. It doesn't address broader issues of security that have a watery dimension, including for national governments' territorial security, although we've heard of tensions in the Tigris-Euphrates basin this morning. IWM is limited to the watershed and has tighter physical boundaries, whereas problems and solutions often lie within a broader realm, which some people call the problem shed. And IWRM tends to be applied at the level of basin or catchment, whereas a more multi-sector approach, sometimes called the nexus, can be applied at any scale and include both watershed and broader problem shed elements. So, Dr. Henk, is Olcay Unver right? Is the literature right? If so, where do we go from here?
Thank you so much, Phil. I want to express my appreciation for Olcay. I know him for quite a bit of years, admire his work and his leadership at FAO as part of UN Water and elsewhere. So that said, from where I sit and my point of view, IWRM is clear. The verdict is out since, you could say, 2015, when the Sustainable Development Goal launched and integrated water resource management was formed as one of the indicators. Report on the degree of implementing these SDGs, and there's a UN progress report on SDG 6, beneficial impact of implementing IWRM is evident. Now, literature concerned, yes, there are mixed experiences. Tushar Shah, one of IWMI's highly respected researchers, put out a great review or country experience, published the Global Water Partnership technical paper. And Tushar shows conclusively that IWRM has changed and improved our thinking towards a more holistic approach and solutions at the catchment and basin level, sometimes much needed, pushing us to collaborate across administrative, functional and political borders. Yes, some of the underlying concepts can at times be fuzzy, and yes, we need to recognize that IWRM is about a process more than about a specific solution, and then again, not a silver bullet, but one of many approaches, but yet its integrated approach is critical and necessary to bring stakeholder needs and opportunities together. And the systems approach that underpins IWRM is critical important. We need a system-based approach, particularly now that we have to address not only constant growing demands on water, but also the challenges like climate change bring to the hydrological cycle. Implementing IWRM in a right way is a huge learning process. So it's not easy and it's not a one-off. And even the Global Water Partnership has confirmed in its latest strategy and where they see IWRM as an umbrella concept. So again, it's not only a solutions approach, it's a process, it's an approach bringing everything and everyone, needs, opportunities, stakeholders, as well as interests together. And it's 4 dimensions: the work on the enabling environment, institutions and participation, management instruments and financing to be incorporated in many and new similar approaches. Critical, important, not easy. Well, I can go on. Support water-related decisions, IWRM, Integrated urban water management, water, energy, food, environment, nexus approaches. Yes, the nexus helps, but IWRM is like the baseline approach. Nature-based solutions, water stewardship, ecosystem management, integrated flood and drought management, source-to-sea approaches, circular economy, water footprint, and so forth. Emphasize one key end concept I would like underpinning IWRM that truly makes it unique. It explicitly aims us to maximize economic and social welfare in an equitable manner without compromising the sustainability of vital ecosystems and the environment. So matching again these multiple dimensions of the SDGs, of the needed values into one approach. Specifically right now, where we see the terrible impact of COVID-19, not only for those suffering from the disease itself, but for those pushed back into poverty by the economic consequences, a concept that has equitable growth at its heart is something to be taken seriously. Where to go from here? I'm almost done. We will need to go further into the space that IWRM has shown us the direction towards. Further into working with other sectors, moving out of isolation of the water space, taking hydroengineering knowledge into participatory conversations with other sectors, engaging with the environment ministers, agriculture ministers, ministers of trade and industry and private sector, and explaining across that water shapes the system that our society is based on. And that we need to jointly refit these systems from this system-based approach carefully so that they do not overburden but rather help restore the hydrological basis they rely on. Invest in water is investing in every SDG, and IWRM is a critical base for it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Heck. That was, I learned a lot from that answer. I think what Olcay was actually saying was that cathedrals are huge and static, whereas a market is a fluid concept. And you talk about IWRM as a process.
It definitely is not static. Yeah.
So thank you for that. I'm tempted to bring Pasquale back in because I know FAO has its own way of thinking on IWRM, but we don't have time. We're going to move on to the next question. This is going to be for you, Professor. I think you knew that from the notes we sent out, but it's not uncommon in emerging water policies to encounter wording along the following lines. We now acknowledge that water is an economic good, therefore we will charge for it volumetrically. Now, although a volumetric charge is one way among several to recover OPEX and perhaps even CAPEX, it has little to nil functionality in terms of increased water security. This is because a user might simply decide to incur the cost of more water in order to supply a more profitable use of water. And even if net abstractions are reduced as a result of a volumetric price, it doesn't reallocate the freed up water in any way. As such, fixed volumetric charges have no allocative value. They're fixed and don't reflect the changing value of water, but a resource price does. A resource price is the price that a willing buyer will pay to a willing seller at a given location at a particular time. Now, it's then possible off the back of that to suggest the concept of economically mobile water, where the legal and an institutional framework allows water that is not required by one user to be sold to another user in a way that reduces its opportunity cost. Now, modelling by IMI and IFPRI almost 20 years ago showed that when water is economically mobile, access to the poor increases, and environmental stream flows increase, and water's economic contribution increases. In other words, economically mobile water is more likely to be secure water. The problem is that you don't know if you've got a reduced abstraction unless you have a water use permit that tells you what you were allowed to abstract. But so here's where it gets interesting. If a water user, perhaps a farmer or a factory, are permitted to use a certain amount of water, is it fair to say that there is no competition for that water? And economics tells us that for anything that there's no competition, there's no resource price. Does this mean that water secured by a water use permit has no resource price? Professor Walid.
Yeah, this is a very. I have an I think this is a very important question for the water security development, and as we always, end up. I think there's an echo. Close his mic, please. I mean, speaker. Hello?
Mine's closed.
No. Okay. Just I'm hearing myself. But anyway, as always the case that in all our meetings we end up with economics. Everything boils down to economics, and I agree with you. There is a market failure for the water sector, but we have to be more innovative in moving from directly to the water markets. Let me just at the beginning, indicate that economics is only a tool of the tools that we have to use to have, to manage our water resources or even food resources, efficiently. In my opinion, I think that the whole region, and particularly the GCC countries, have to have a paradigm shift from the emphasis on sustainability of supply to sustainability of consumption. This is a very serious thing. They have to start thinking about it from now. Now, to move from sustainability of supply to sustainability of consumption, I have 3 tools. These are all well known. I have the structural and operational, like metering, retrofitting, water supply device, flow control, recycling, all these things. And I have the socio-political, which is the awareness and the building codes and appliance labeling and all these things. But then I have the economic tools, which are the incentives and disincentives. Experience has shown that economic policy instruments are the most effective in achieving economic efficiency and financial sustainability. These are definitely the case, and they can complement all the other things. We have also to differentiate between the 2 things. We're talking about financial instruments and economic instruments. Financial instruments are to recover the cost, while economic instruments are to change behavior. This has to be very clear for us from the beginning. Now, I agree with you that, back to your question, we have a market failure in the water sector, and if we look at it if we look at water as an economic good, we can apply that. But it's also a social good, and it's inelastic in many utilizations, such as for drinking and for subsistence farming. I think we all agree on that. So, why I am putting a price on the water? It is to recover my cost as well as give a reflection on the value of that water, so I can change the behavior of a consumer. And I also want to have resource protection. Now, we cannot say, let's move to the market of water, if I have other options to do. And I think I'll just give you a very good example of one of the tariff that has been utilized in some of the countries like Tunisia to actually capture the human rights to water. They capture the financial sustainability, and they capture also the economic sustainability of the resource. In Tunisia, in the water supply, they have a block tariff structure. Basically, conceptually, it is divided into 3 categories. The first one, they call it the social tariff. That social tariff actually guarantee the human right to water, okay, and it is represent only a very small fraction of the operation and maintenance of the whole water supply system they have in the country. And then once you move from the social tariff, they have what they call it the financial tariff, which is actually designed to recover the operation and maintenance of the system. And that's a very interesting, structure that they are trying to recover from the second tariff, their operation and maintenance, so they can sustain the service and they can continue providing the service and they can expand in it. Now, if you go to the third tariff, which is a very interesting thing, they call it the economic tariff. That economic tariff, actually, it is 150% of the operation and maintenance. They have put inside that tariff, the cost inside that tariff includes all the externalities and the resource depletion, the value, and all these things. This type of structure can take me from the one-sided market failure to, a design to really deal with water as a social as well as an economic good. And in the middle, I can fulfill my financial, obligations. So that's a type of innovative tariff structure that, can solve the problem in terms of definitely people who are using more water, they have to pay more and subsidize the others. There is no question about that. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, is okay.
I just have a message saying you have been signed out, so I was scared that I would be cut off from the meeting. But anyway, this is my opinion about my. Now, I can tell you that there is market for water actually in the GCC countries at certain areas, like in Oman, like even in Yemen, there is a market for. But this is not the dominant. If you go with the market, only the people who have the money will be able to have the privilege of using the water. So as a state, I am entrusted to fulfill to protect this water resource as well as have some social equity in its distribution. And I'm going to be stopping at that.
Thank you very much, Professor. I think this whole subject deserves an entire 2-hour session, but I'm very glad you separated out the right to water from water use permit. You referred to the human right to water. That is very different to the permit to use water. So thank you for clarifying that, and thank you for sharing some insights from the region. Well, that's the end of our formal questions, and we've got just over 10 minutes left. Let's go to the subsidiary questions. Just an interesting one emerging from some research at King's College London. Dr. Pasquale referred to 70% of the value addition occurring outside of the farm gate. It's actually it's worse than that. It's 70% between the farm gate and the retail outlet. So the retail sector and the production sector only get around about 15% each of the whole value chain. Can any of the panelists think of a way that more of the value addition could be brought within the farm gate so that farmers can invest in more sustainable use of water? Any panelists want to take that one?
Phil, if you want, I can.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. No, I believe, as I mentioned before, there is a way that in the organization of the market itself at the farm gate, so the association that doesn't have to be just cooperatives, but association that better organize the market and possibly take over some of the function that, let's say, additional enterprises along the value chain can take and move that one toward the farmers group or the farmers association. In Egypt, the water user association have been demonstrated that when they are involved also in marketing aspect, they benefit more the farmers in terms of income and so on. The issue is complex, but definitely there are ways to value much more than what is done now. We are still suffering, for instance, in several areas of Africa, of the middlemen, the presence of the middlemen. So those are situations which also, are not acceptable from a perspective of the farmers, income, because they are ultimately the stewards of the soil, water, and several biodiversity and several other natural resources. So agriculture is seen, and the farmers as main actors of agriculture is seen as a multi-functional, type of sector. So we needed to look and find a way that the organization along the value chain get better organized in order to benefit more the farmer. One thing that I was mentioning also before is this distinction between the trade of the long chain with the short chain that is also linked, for instance, in the rural-urban relationship. Also there are opportunity for farmers to get more of the benefit along the value chain. So I believe there are opportunity mostly, for instance, in the short chain. The e-commerce is one of them that can be better organized in order to benefit the farmer. It needs to be revisited under different perspectives. I'll stop here. This is my modest contribution. Thanks.
Thank you, Pasquale. Now we get to the final stage of our workshop. I'm going to ask each of the panelists to spend no more than 90 seconds giving us their one-sentence takeaway. So, Dr. Ragab, what is your one-sentence takeaway from this morning's session?
Thank you, Phil. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Really, thank you. It was a very fruitful session. And I think from my presentation and other we can learn that from my point of view, that transboundary cooperation is very important to secure water resources availability. That is the base of water security for downstream countries. This is very important. Second point, as we mentioned, integrated water resources management approach should be implemented to deal with all issues related to water security, like water supply, water demand, water quality, infrastructure, private sector. All of these issues, I think, need to be addressed through the integrated water resources management approach. In Egypt, we have this coordination. I think was a good tool to implement the integrated water resources management approach. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Dr. Ragab. Now, His Excellency, the Minister from Iraq, what is your one-sentence takeaway? The Minister from Iraq, what is your one-sentence takeaway? I think we may have lost contact.
Okay. No, I'm here. Thank you. I can say we respect the upper part country for develop their projects, and we ask them to respect the downstream country development their projects in order to reach the sustainable development and food security. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Professor Waleed, one-sentence takeaway, please.
Yes, I think the supply side management and augmentation approach has reached its limit, or having its cost increasing with time. And I think water security and food security can be improved significantly by addressing the demand side and efficiency side approaches, by looking at the current inefficiencies and volumes of wasted water, lost water. I think we can see a huge potential, and in fact, demand management and efficiency is more cost effective than supply augmentation and supply management. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Dr. Henk.
Thank you, Phil. And I want to thank all participants for great insights and the conversation. Water security to sustainable development is critical, important. For many, a no-brainer. For too many, yet less understood. So understanding this complexity is one. Valuing water then across all SDGs, across all needs, but also across all opportunities of the interested partners and parties in our river basins, transboundary, within our cities, our communities, and within our governments is critical, important, and then manage water inclusively, transparent, and accountable, and having the means and measures ready for that integrated approach on water management is going to be critical and important. So water security for sustainable development, critical and important. Last, investing in water has a trickle-down effect on everything we value. A trickle-down effect on climate action, mitigating climate change, as well as adapting to a changing climate. A trickle-down effect and created value across all SDGs. So, ensuring that understanding is brought to bear across our public and private sectors in our business cases, programs, and projects is going to be critical, important for water security for sustainable development. I want to thank all and look forward to further engagement and participation, as well as, of course, local action on the ground in the places at risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Henk. I'm surprised you didn't mention nature-based solutions there somewhere, because you mentioned it in one of your answers. Anyway,
I pick it up. Part of that is through nature, but not only. And I'm always a little bit wary to single out one aspect. But yes, nature-based solutions are systemic. Look across SDGs and find solutions to mitigate climate, adapt to it, and build more sustainably. So thank you for highlighting this.
Thank you so much. Last word to you, Pasquale. You have 1 minute.
Okay, Phil, thank you very much. It's been a very exciting session, as I was expecting. So thank you to all the panelists. Thank you all the participants for the question as well. If I have to give one message to go, given the intrinsicable link between water security and food security, I would say that we should invest, or we should act more on the food systems. The food system, from the sustainable production all the way to sustainable consumption, in particular the consumption as a driver. And here I am on the same line of thinking of Professor Zubari, where the demand side with the health and nutrition, rather than consumption without understanding what is really needed in our diets, is relevant to make the benefit both for natural resources but also for the health and well-being of the people. So acting on food systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Pasquale. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for your excellent contribution. Thank you for your discipline with sticking to the questions. So big thanks to you guys. But also, and finally, a big thanks to the ICT team that have run this platform that we've all benefited from. So with that, I thank you all and wish you a very good day and a very good continuation of the conference. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Rashid.
Thank you.
Thank you.